medal. Half a postcard. Photograph of... I don't know. You think someone would have told me I looked like a fucking loop-de-loop in that outfit? No sense of what goes what at that age. Another medal. Prefect badge. Friendship bracelet from... that kid with the fringe. Christ. The amount of medals in here could have fooled you into thinking I wouldn't become a lazy so-and-so. Now, if there was a medal you could win for sitting on your arse and scrolling through your phone all day, I reckon I could give a good stab at that one. God, would have been better off doing that today. Scrolling through my phone instead of rooting through this rubbish. It took me 2 hours to drive across here, and all the while I could have been snuggled up in bed. Oh, that's the only place I should be right now after the events of last week. Thinking back on it, the argument may have been my fault to an extent. Okay, so it was probably entirely my fault, but in my defence, I was very drunk. We were going through Temple Bar, stumbling around like baby giraffes, you know yourself. My foot goes forward to take a step, ankle goes from under me, and it's another pair of broken heels to add to the list. Take them off, keep walking. Pain in my foot's a good distraction from the lump in my throat, I guess. The girlfriends behind me being all, "Come on, babe, I don't know why you're being like this." So I whipped round and called her a cow. Couldn't quite remember why we were arguing at this point, but I felt I should stand my ground. So anyway, go back and forth for a while, snapping at each other. Both of us being petty as fuck, but it wasn't. Like, I didn't think that it was... Anyway, next thing I know, she's telling me she can't do this anymore, and I'm left standing on O'Connell Bridge with a written off pair of new look heels in my hand and mascara dripping down my cheeks. The next morning I woke up knowing 2 things. Number 1, there was a 90% chance that my girlfriend of 10 months was no longer my girlfriend. And number 2, the argument had in fact begun with me calling her a bitch for not getting me ice cream from an aggressively shut Geno's at 4 a.m. Yeah. So I decided that it was probably for the best if I didn't contact her anytime soon. God, would you look at that? 2:30 already. Time flies when you're shit talking to yourself.
I'll make the teapot and we'll make the cup.
The niece has Nick Jr. on full blast in the living room there. Happy out, so she is. You'd miss the old kids' TV shows all the same, wouldn't you? Like fucking Dora, man. What a legend. Going around being a ditzy little spanner of a child whizzing around the gaff with iguanas. How class was that? Now, don't get me wrong. If the niece sticks on a bit of PJ Masks, I'm not complaining. They remind me a bit of the Powerpuff Girls, so let that one slide. Oh, it's those shitty remakes of the golden era of kids' telly that really irks me. Like, have you seen what they've done to Noddy? Her poor Bob the Builder. They've been CGI'd to death, and it's a real shame. You wouldn't even recognise the bros anymore, man. God. It doesn't feel like that long ago since I was sneaking downstairs at the crack of dawn to flick through Cartoon Network myself. Happy as Larry, munching on a bowl of Weetabix and singing along to theme tunes. God. Before you know it, you're 20, 30 years down the line and wishing for the days when a hug from your mommy would solve all your problems. 20 or 30 years down the line and all you have to show for it is a box of old shite gathering dust inside of an attic. I would have forgot about it and all if Mom hadn't sent me an ominous text message. Jane, found something upstairs belonged to you. You've some explaining to do to your father. Now, at the time of receiving that message, the only thought going through my head was that my parents had found an old sex toy or something along those lines down the side of my bed. So naturally, I started trying to come up with a whole host of excuses to explain to my very holy parents why there would be anything in my bedroom alluding to the sacred act of sexual intercourse, especially with a non-male specimen. So there I am, after swinging open the front door, ready to spew out some long-winded story about a sex ed art project from TY, when I see my mum, in absolute stitches, holding this. A rather straightforward way for a 5-year-old to explain to her infant peers that her dad was a bin man, if you ask me. My dad didn't agree, but regardless, it was a much easier conversation than the one I'd originally preempted. Even as a fully grown woman, I've yet to come out to my parents. I fully intend to, eventually, but just trying to figure out how to get them past the whole God will resent our daughter thing. Religious reverence aside, though, they're dead sound, so they are. Made for great parents, despite all my childish tantrums at an age where I should have been long past them. God knows there's enough photos in there documenting those outbursts. Composed photos like this were few and far between, to say the least. It's kind of nice, isn't it? How a box of old photos and knickknacks can drag up even the tiniest of memories. Like there's a seashell that I spotted in there from a beach down in Wexford. It's a tiny brown little thing that somewhat concerningly resembles a piece of sheep shit, but the minute I saw it, I was thinking about how lovely it was to be running through the sand with all your little buddies. The only cause of stress being when your moms would take too long slathering you in factor 50. For fear you'd miss out on the fun for even a second too long. In one way, you'd miss the simplicity of it all when you look at it through rose-tinted glasses. God, when you remember it properly, weren't we all absolute weapons as children? God. Everything was worthy of being on Guary with how dramatic it all was. Or how dramatic it seemed to us in our tiny little worlds. Like in school, when someone would steal a brand new multicoloured twistable and all hell would break loose when the owner realised that their pride and joy was missing. Suddenly, everyone was a suspect. Now, most of the time, the victim of the robbery would go running straight to teacher, wailing their head off. Teacher, somebody stole my brand new crayons, and my mammy said that if I don't bring them all home, then I can't take them into school anymore. Oh, no, actually. It was those kids who thought they were real mature. Sorted out amongst themselves, you know. Oh my God, the cutthroat insults that 6-year-olds could come out with in those situations. Karen, I know your mammy can only afford to buy your colouring sets in the Euro shop because she works as a not employed person. So you definitely stole them. My God. It was all in good fun though. And when you were that quiet child that no one suspected, sure you got some nice little rewards out of it, didn't you? Too good for you, Susie. You posh little fuck. And now, would you look at who it is? The OG. The main man himself. Many a tantrum this lad can be down from. I'll be honest with you. It was only, 2 years ago? When I fully moved out of the house that I agreed to packing him away instead of keeping him by my bedside. Sure, you never know when you're going to need a good cuddle from your favourite teddy. God knows he soaked up a lot of tears in his days. From tantrums through to breakups. We never did give you a real name, did we? You were always just Ted. But I suppose that's not much of a name, is it? That'd be the same as you just calling me, lesbian. If you could talk. Oh God, the trouble I'd be in if he could talk. When Jane was a little girl and got her first Nintendo DSi, she wasn't just using it to play Mario Kart. Shh, don't say anything. She was using it to look at pictures of naked ladies on the internet. Oh, Dad. I wish I could say he was lying, but I was very in tune with my sexuality from a young age. Gave me a lot of comfort, actually, knowing who I was. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy being a queer person, especially in Ireland, but I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't owned my sexuality, and, well, if that's different than what some L1 thinks, then so be it. I think we'll stick with Ted. Suits you. Now, actually, I take back what I said earlier about sitting on my arse being my medal winning category. If there was one for Scrabble, I would win it with my eyes closed. God, I must have been 4 or 5 the first time I played. Kicked up a fuss because I didn't want to be on a team with my mum. I wanted to show everyone all the words I knew on my own, prove I didn't need anybody's help. So they let me try. Well, it wasn't quite the kid genius story I thought it would be, but I got better as the years went on. This board game was all but banned in my house for fear my siblings kicking up a storm after I beat them for the 7th time in a row. So up it went, into the attic, only to be taken down when friends would come over. God. Other than that, it stayed up here until my nana first got sick and went into hospital. My mum would spend all her time by her bedside, so that left us to be minded by my granddad. He'd play Scrabble with me to cheer me up. He takes such pride in losing miserably every time just to make me feel better. Nothing on Nana now in terms of cheering me up when I was down, but he gave a good go at it and I appreciated that. We'd never really gelled, me and him, but I knew how much he cared about my Nana, so that was enough for me to respect him hugely. They never were one of those sappy couples, my grandparents. You wouldn't catch them gazing longingly at each other across the room or holding hands on family walks, but you knew they appreciated each other's company. They were a good pair, so they were. When my Nana passed away, we were all devastated. You know those families where the grandparents are like second parents to the kids? That was ours to a T. From as far back as I can remember, they were always around our house. Whether it was minding us so my parents could get a break from the three sprogs or just round for Sunday dinner. They were always there and always smiling. Well, my Nana was. My granddad was more of a shuffle around doing unprompted DIY tasks kind of guy. I remember looking up at her when I was little. Nana, I want to be just like you when I'm all grown up. And she'd look down at me and smile and let out a raspy little chuckle and say, "Ah, you already are, pet. You already are." I suppose I never quite understood that. I was 13 when she passed away, and up until that point we probably couldn't have been more different. She was all Zumba in the village hall, and well, you were more likely to find me curled up inside with a cup and a book. Classic extrovert versus introvert kind of story. Regardless, she always hinted that she liked me best. You know, snuck me sweets under the dinner table, sat me on her lap Christmas morning opening prezzies. Just little gestures that said, "You're special, Jane. You matter to me," without saying anything at all. When she passed away, I didn't know what to do with myself. Suddenly all the special treatment was gone and I was just another one of the grandkids. My pal was gone. And it was tough. She left each of us grandkids something of hers to wear to keep her close, you know. I got this gorgeous pendant that she wore on her wedding day. Lovely, isn't it? All my sisters and cousins got necklaces and rings too, but I think I got the nicest one. It came in this this gorgeous little box with the purple ribbon tied around it. made a point of saying in her will that one had to go to me. I think it's because she knew the purple was my favourite colour. Actually, that box is probably in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Not quite as fancy as I remember, but still really nice to have all the same. Oh, there's a message on the inside of the box. I've never noticed that before. Probably my granddad saying good luck on the big day or something. To my dear Margaret, love you always, my darling. Amy. Amy. Lovely Amy, my heart aches not seeing you anymore. I'm sorry I always think of your laugh. Well, fuck me. It appears my nana was a bloody lesbian too. I mean, she must have shown me this photo when I was 7 or 8, but I wasn't old enough to understand how she was talking about Amy. God, if I'd just been older, I could have understood. I could have asked questions about her. Was she out? How long were they together? Were they still in touch? God, why didn't she just tell me? Well, I suppose she did try to tell me in her own way. God. I suppose this explains the affectionless relationship with my granddad, but what? She'd found the person she wanted to spend her life with, and just had to keep a bunch of photos of the love of her life hidden away in an inconspicuous album. Pretend she was straight. Cover up the heartache, plaster on a smile, and just get on with things, because that's what you had to do? Why didn't she tell me? The way they're looking at each other in this photo is so beautiful. They look so in love. She must have had her reasons for not telling me outright. got to respect that. God, I will not be the second lesbian in this family to marry a man. Mom! Can you come up here for a sec? There's something I have to tell you.